Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell. You can find me on X at utterlytc. And guys, we are looking ahead to game week 33. We've got Mark Mansfield back on the channel. He is having another awesome season and he's going to tell us all his secrets as we look ahead to game week 33 and of course ahead to double game week 34. Timestamps are on the video, guys, if you do want to hop around, and of course you can head over to fantasyfootballfix.com if you haven't already done so and you do want to get your push notifications enabled for all of our elite managers. But guys, without further ado, let's get right into it. Guys, welcome back. It's been a minute. And Mark, welcome back to the channel, mate. It's been a little while since you and I have caught up. And look at that beautiful rank. You're into the top 14,000, mate. It's going super well for you. Congratulations. You want to tell us what your secrets are? How's things been going for you?
Hey Tom, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's been going well. I just somehow stole a green arrow this week with Pedro Porro getting the third goal for Spurs. And
Beautiful.
just checking, it looks like he's come in with 11 points, which couldn't believe how low his ownership is, because I think it was around 85%, maybe around game week 27, and he's down around 20 now. So true differential.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So I rolled transfer this week and haven't wildcarded yet. So I've getting two green arrows from I think 23,000 to 13 in 2 weeks when I haven't pushed the boat out is pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that.
It's magic, man. I'm super congratulatory to you, mate. Again, another kick-ass season, and like you say, you've still got the wild card in hand. So I'm sure we will talk around what your plans are around that chip. We can see the free hits being used, but you've still, of course, got your bench boost as well. So we'll get into some chip strategy, I'm sure, Mark. But just want to say, well done. You've got an awesome team value there, and you've already mentioned game week already. That's in the books as well. You've mentioned some great players that have been coming through for you and how these ownerships can change. I mean, Pedro Porro, just talk to me briefly before we have a look at the team in detail, Mark. How long have you been holding him? Is he someone that's been with you and you've stuck the course through that high ownership, or is he a recent addition?
Yeah, I got him really early. And then I sold him. I didn't want to sell him, but I sold him for Trent at some stage. I can't remember when, and got him back. And I think he did reasonably well maybe in the first third of the season, but he's been junk since then, really. And before, I was watching the game today and I was anticipating coming on this, and I was going to say, like, he's just flattered to deceive all season. And then he gets his biggest haul of the season, I think. Before this game week, if you'd asked me what my most likely transfer was, it probably would have been Pedro Porro to Aït-Nouri from Wolves.
Yeah.
But Aït-Nouri, unfortunately for those who won, got a little bit of an injury, I think. So haven't got a prognosis yet, but maybe he's gone. But Porro's he's passed the eye test. His numbers have been good, but just not getting the return. So it's kind of satisfying to people who held him that they're going to get rid of him, I think, in the next 2 weeks, and this is a final hurrah for him.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, he'll still, I'm sure, be a player that people or managers who own them would be looking to move on with the upcoming blank for them. They got the match against Newcastle as well. Not sure what necessarily to make of that. But let's just talk bigger picture a minute, Mark, before we look at your team. So you're ranked 14,000 odd or 13,000 and change right now overall rank. You've got wildcard and bench boost still in hand. I'm sure that chip strategy or chip situation will be mirrored for many of our viewers. What's your target, mate? Overall rank right now with those chips in hand and your overall rank currently. What are you targeting?
Top 10k at this stage, and I would be real black and white about it. From this point, I'd see 9,999th as a success, and I'd see 10,000 as a failure. So everything I do will probably be aimed towards that, because like the guys who are on this show, like we're overall rank merchants. That's what we do. It's all about what you get at the end of the season, and I'll probably do whatever I need to do to get into the top 10k and get that 4-figure rank, because that's what I'm playing the game for, really.
Yeah, I understand. And look, every chance of there would be a brave/stupid man to bet against you managing it again, mate. And I can looking that in the elite league position as well, second as well. Any thoughts on eyeing the top spot in that esteemed league as well?
No. I think the fellow who's winning it, I think it's Paul.
Paul, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I
having
think
a
Paul is
pretty good season, right?
Yeah, Midas touch.
Yeah.
There's no catching him. He's away with it, and good luck to him. He's made some great moves this season. Solid manager, and he will take number one spot.
Congratulations to Paul in advance from Mark. Well,
No pressure, Paul, if you're
exactly.
watching.
I'm sure there's nothing loaded in that early congratulations whatsoever. But we will watch to see.
He's had a great season.
He has had a great
He
season.
deserves it. He's
Yeah,
had a
he
good
does.
season.
He does. And likewise for yourself as well, mate. Well, we'll watch how that plays out. But you've mentioned your previous game week points already, Mark. So let's take a look at how you got on in the game week that's just concluded. Okay, so we can see here, guys, that Mark's had another great week, hasn't he? Picking up a 70-point return here. Obviously, no chips deployed here. And Pedro Porro, beautiful 11-point haul in the defence there. I'm going to ask you about this defence, though. And I should say, guys, in this week's video, we are going to be taking a look in detail at some of the Liverpool assets. So why don't we start there with Bradley here? So how long has Bradley been in this team then, Mark? And is he someone that you're sort of comfortable owning, moving on to ahead of game week 33 and double game week 34, or are you a little bit worried about his prospects?
Yeah, we'll get around to it in more detail, but I've had him for 3 weeks now.
Okay.
He got 4 points the first week I had him by somehow conjuring up 2 bonus points.
Yeah.
Then last week an own goal, so quite unfortunate. I think he would have got 6 points or more if not. And then this week I didn't have much. I had him benched until I heard about Foden. I didn't have too much hope for him. He got booked early, so I was even glad to get the 1 point.
Yeah.
He was an opportunistic signing, really. And like the reason to get him was hopefully you get him in and Trent never comes back. So I'll be monitoring that quite closely.
Yeah.
But I'm not even comfortable with him if Trent doesn't come back, really. The situation as it is that I'll get to game week 34. Everyone will want 3 Liverpool. I'll have Bradley, Salah, and one other. Or I could spend the transfer getting Bradley to probably one of the more expensive defenders, as we can discuss later.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it's worth doing. Maybe it's worth swapping Bradley to another Liverpool defender.
Yeah.
But we need to see what happens with the European games, the Crystal Palace game, where Trent is at. But he's even got competition. There's 4 fullbacks who can line out now for Liverpool, excluding Trent. I doubt he'll get 2 starts in game week 34.
34. Yeah. Okay.
Regardless how it goes with Trent.
Yeah, makes sense. And like you say, we will come on and look at some stats for some of the Liverpool defensive options for you guys in a few slides' time. But let's look at the rest of the team then, Mark. So the Arsenal contingent, you were obviously already trebled up there with the 2 defensive options, Ben White, Gabriel, and Saka in the midfield. Do you think that's the optimal setup for Arsenal going into 33 and down the stretch, with not necessarily the personnel per se, but with the 2 at the back and Saka? Is that how you see the ideal Arsenal complement ongoing?
Yeah, it's not one I've thought about too much, because it's very much in my mind that I'm going to be deleveraging Arsenal in around 35.
Yeah, sure.
If I had wildcarded already, I'd probably prefer just to have 1 Arsenal defender, and maybe just 1 Arsenal attacker as well.
Okay, interesting.
What occurred to me recently though is Saka that attacker now? So yesterday he comes off early, and we hear he's got some ongoing injury. Does he have some issues? And he comes off early again. And you see Havertz is going well, Odegaard is going well.
Yeah.
But then today, changing the title race today is that it's become a little bit more relevant what the goal difference is.
Good point.
And if Arsenal and Liverpool are chasing goal difference, they might have taken off players before in garbage time, but now they need to score goals potentially to, it's the advantage of a point in a league race. So maybe Saka's minutes expectation goes up a little bit, but he's got fitness issues. I don't think the wild card midfield in 35 has Saka in it.
No.
And I think people are talking about having no Arsenal defenders. I would keep 1 Arsenal defender.
Okay.
Like, we're in a situation this week where 2 teams kept clean sheets.
It's been a nightmare, hasn't it, Mark? We've talked about it on this, in the elite Slack and what have you, around the difficulty of finding a defence outside of Arsenal to be relied upon, right, all season pretty much, and it just hasn't been one to select from, and that continues, right? So interesting you mentioned that ahead of a potential wild card after the double in 34.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say about this team this week is the way the game is now,
Hmm.
and the way ownership is, and the way everyone is, like, everyone is in very similar position, and you're looking for edges. I was really uncomfortable going into this week with four defenders, and that's kind of disappointed to see Foden not starting for that reason,
Hmm.
because you really want to minimize how many defenders you're playing.
Hmm.
And I said before the game week, I was thinking that maybe Paro will go to eight Nori, but now I'm thinking, should I spend my defenders and attackers for the double and forget about the
I
defenders?
see.
Because I have I have two Arsenal
Hmm.
defenders. I have two Bournemouth defenders.
Hmm.
Fine.
Hmm.
I've got Bradley. I mightn't even play him. Even if I don't upgrade him, I mightn't play him.
Hmm.
So yeah, I felt it was a real, things are very marginal right now with respect to getting rankings. I felt going in a 4-4-2, I felt at a real
I
disadvantage. So
see.
I'm
Yeah.
very lucky that I got 3.5 returns there from a week that had two clean sheets.
I mean, you could say that. Like you and I were talking off camera. You've picked Pedro Porro as much for his attacking sort of output or
Yeah,
prospects, right? As well as the prospect of Spurs occasionally threatening a clean sheet, maybe. So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
being
yeah.
modest, but no, I do take your point. Let's look forward. So you've mentioned the Bournemouth defence there, so you including Neto in there, picked up the 4-point return, decent, right, after conceding as well, and looks like a good prospect for double game week 34.
Yeah, I think when it was at 1-1, he was heading for 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to get another bonus, and he wouldn't have lost the second point for conceding a goal. So yeah, I'm happy. 4
Yeah,
points for keeper this season is fine. People got Dubravka's 9 points,
and
and
Pickford, right,
that's
as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And like the Dubravka 9 points, they deserve it for service, for service rendered
yeah,
to
that's
the
a good point.
cause of
Yeah, it's
Dubravka. He's horrible,
it,
horrible.
it's right there. The check's been in the mail for some weeks or months,
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah,
it? Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Looking ahead to this midfield, I mean, it's a sort of quintessential four, right? Isn't it, that you'd expect to have at this stage? But I want to ask you around Heung-min Son, Mark. So, I mean, obviously we've referred to the fixtures already. They've got Newcastle in game week 33, and no double, no game in 34, right?
Mm.
How do you see Tottenham right now in FPL terms as a kind of collective? And you can answer in relation to Heung-min Son as well. But is it a team that you're comfortable with, like abandoning ship altogether? What's your read on them?
I think, I mean, you're always comfortable to have Son in your team, regardless of fixtures. The issue with him is he doesn't have a fixture in 34.
Yeah.
So I may sell him next
Hmm.
week, because I have nothing in the bank, but I have two transfers. So if I want to raise some money, it's going to be him.
Okay.
Um, I think he's fair to hold, but nobody's really going to have him, I think, beyond 33.
Hmm.
I'll be surprised if people keep was he 11 million pound player on the bench.
No.
Paro, as I say, he can go
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
The issue becomes when you're, again, it's one of these ones where it matters whether somebody is wild carded or not.
Hmm.
Um, and I can get rid of them, but I think others can't. If they want to have these Spurs players for their doubles, but their doubles don't look too good.
No.
So maybe Son will be enough,
Yeah.
for those
That's
doubles.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. He may be actually.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one to ponder. I want to ask you as well, Mark, and we will look at your game week 33 bus team in a moment. But just ahead of that, you've got Solanke up front. I don't want to talk around Erling Haaland at the moment, but Solanke now, obviously they got this double in 34 as well. But
Mm.
I haven't been impressed by them recently. Only he's had this kind of injury that he's come back from, etc. What's your read on him? You comfortable rolling into 34 and backing him with the double fixtures and his great early season form, and this is nothing to worry about? You still think he's the optimal pick going into 33 and 34?
Yeah, I got on him very early. You look at his numbers. I didn't see too much football yesterday. I didn't see
No,
the
fair enough.
Bournemouth game, but I can see he's got an XGI of 11 on the FPL site, 0.21 the week before. But then the week before he had a 0.83.
Hmm.
So game to game, we don't know what's going to happen. And given his ownership, given he's got the double right there, I'm not even considering selling him. He's going to stay.
He owns a place. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, who have they gotten in 34? It's it's Wolves and it's Villa both
Yeah,
away. But like as we saw today, someone gets a cheap penalty. It doesn't really matter what else has happened. If they can roll a penalty in,
yeah,
they're good.
yeah. And then there's no concern with you with that phrase that rolls around this time of the year about onthebeach.com and what have you. Think Bournemouth are still motivated? Solanke's still going to be looking to end the season strongly?
No, I don't really believe in teams being on the beach. I think you can get individual players who are on the beach, but like sometimes teams play with let's say joie de vivre. When we say they're on the beach, but they're actually just really relaxed and
Carefree.
they're
That's a nice way.
comfortable. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in the team on the beach thing. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think players can come to the end of contracts, or maybe their mind is on a summer tournament. So you get players who are step off, but I don't think Solanke's that kind of player really.
One or two in the Man United team, I would suggest over the last few years, Mr. Mansfield, but maybe a different topic.
Not after today's glorious performance.
That's
Like,
one word to describe it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
complete performance, top to bottom.
yeah. That's certainly one assessment you could go with. All right, Grant. Let's move on, Mark, and take a look at how you're set up ahead of Game Week 33. Okay, here we are, guys. So you can see Mr. Foden has warranted a place in the starting lineup. He comes on off the bench. So, assuming no early news and what have you, that no Foden comes back in. It's quite nice to have him rested. I know there's some European football to get through, but home game against Luton, lovely to bring him back into the fold, right, Mark?
Yeah, but as you say, we don't know. And is it really unimaginable that he'd start two Real Madrid games and rest Luton? Same with Haaland. It could happen. I won't be surprised if either of them gets benched.
Nothing's
Um,
unimaginable with Pep, is it?
no, no,
Right.
no.
Absolutely good, good,
But
good point.
like even with 20 minutes to go on Saturday, I was just thinking, oh, maybe Foden will come on for 20 minutes. I think I regret benching him.
Yeah,
So
it
even
wouldn't take much, would it? That's a good point,
no, no,
actually. A
no.
benching
So
wouldn't necessarily be a disaster, would it? Okay,
I,
so
I
look.
I don't think I need to get so smart as to bench Foden ahead of this.
Oh goodness me, no, not at all. Interesting with the captaincy though, Mark, sitting on Cole Palmer. He's had a wonderful season, right? An incredible season, right? It's been an absolutely amazing signing in a desperately erratic, let's use that word, Chelsea side. But for him to pick up the captaincy here, Mark, is that something that you're set on? Do you think there's any wriggle room here? Salah in a home game against Palace, the Luton game that you just mentioned, or is Palmer your definitive captain choice for 33?
I think it'll find its way back to Salah, to be honest,
Mm,
because he may well get a rest on Thursday. Yeah,
okay.
they're going to save him for the league. You've got minutes worries around Haaland and Foden. Chelsea are just like I didn't see the game today. I don't think anyone really did unless they were streaming it. Just the numbers were awful. He
Mm,
came off early. I'm just so bad at picking captains. Like
okay.
it's the big weakness in my game, so to speak.
Hmm.
Just if I was hitting captains, it would make the difference between being where I am and
Winning the whole
maybe.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Maybe being ten
I don't
thousand
know,
places
man.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Andrew Neve was talking about it, wasn't he? This
Mm.
weekly chip, I think he's referred to it previously as.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a,
yeah.
it's a massive factor on the game, isn't it? So, historically, if you're struggling, then over the course of a season, it can have a real difference, can't it? Definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
what I tend to do is like as it comes up to the deadline, I tend to switch it around just to see how it
mm,
looks.
hmm.
And you try and think of who do I want two of here. So I tried to bring in techniques to pick it better, but like this week was a case in point. All
Mm,
four main captains returned, all within 3 points. Like in this
yeah.
particular case, it didn't matter. But
No, I get that,
um,
mate.
I think it'll find its way back to Salah. To be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Home game. I mean, I think I read today
Mm.
that there hasn't been a period in the whole season where he's gone 2 consecutive game weeks without a return. So,
Yeah.
who am I to argue with that type of type of numbers? So you've got 2 free transfers, Mark. Obviously, double
Yeah.
game week 34 looms large as well. What we thinking? 1, 2? What's the plan?
Yeah. The thoughts beforehand were Parrot Eight Nori just
Hmm.
because I didn't want to burn it. I wouldn't even play Eight Nori unless Bradley played
Sure.
on Thursday.
Yeah.
But looking at that, It's hard to see how I would certainly improve the team, but I have to make some move.
Yeah.
Um,
Not Areola,
maybe I could.
potentially?
Maybe I could do something with Areola.
Hmm.
But even then, it's just for game week 33 unless you get Pickford,
Mm.
and then I'm playing him over Neto in 30. Like, is it worth it 34? So probably what I'll do is downgrade Son. Like that's what I think right now I'll end up doing is downgrading Son, and it's
Hmm.
risky, but I'd like to make one transfer, free up the money, and have
Hmm.
two going into 34. So maybe going into 34, then I'd have plenty of money, and I could maybe make three transfers at the
Hmm.
cost of -4.
Hmm.
But it's dangerous, but I have to do something. I don't think a goalkeeper or even a defensive transfer away from Paro is worth much.
No,
So
it's not that it would like a transfer from Areola would yield much money either, with him being a cheaper option anyway. I mean, you could look
yeah,
for
yeah.
Kelleher, but he's got problems in terms of Allison coming back to fitness as well, hasn't he? So might not be anything there. I'd be interesting to see if you do go with Son, Mark, bearing in mind what we just talked around. You're sort of saying comfortable with him, and difficult game to read that one, I guess, at St James's Park as well. With is
Mm.
presumed with the way that Spurs played, expect an open game, right?
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of teams like Spurs and
Mm.
indeed like Newcastle. They're just Jekyll and Hyde. You
Yeah,
don't
they
know
are.
from one week to the next what you're going to get. And there's a lot of teams like that in the league.
Yeah.
And I'd include United in that, in fact.
Mm.
And I can't call that game. But
No.
I'm not too impressed with Spurs recently. I think Son
No.
is doing what he can, but I think there's a lot of maybe what you might call clowns in the Spurs team, kind of in with respect to head down, just running around like headless chickens. Johnson and Werner and Kulusevski's not really at it,
He
and
doesn't even make the
Son,
team, does he? He didn't get start
no,
today. Yeah.
no, and Madison's not.
Yeah, he's
He's
very
like
tailed
Haaland.
on,
He was
isn't
going really well, got
he? Yeah.
injured, came back, and hasn't been the same.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So he's kind of working on his own, Son.
Mm.
He's the problem is not him per se, but yeah, I think at the moment he would be the one to make way, but we don't know. We will see how minutes are midweek.
We will see that. So if it's a downgrade, it would be to free up funds. Are there names in the frame? Is it one of the Liverpool assets we'll be looking at shortly, or would you be looking elsewhere for a Son downgrade?
Well, looking at the fixtures next
Mm.
week, you could look at Wolves,
Hmm.
but the way I'm thinking right now, and I could have got Darwin last week when a lot of people jumped on Darwin, but I kind of wanted to keep my option there open.
Hmm.
We'll get to it in the next slide maybe, but I didn't want to commit to Darwin so far out
Fair
because
enough.
I'm not always sure about him. I like having him on my team, but I'm not sure coming into this period if he's going to remain as nailed in the team. Maybe, well, maybe he won't. Maybe I'll get Darwin, but maybe
Okay.
I will not get a Liverpool attacker, so I can leave that decision even later. So I could go down to a Wolves player, maybe Sarabia.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
he's
think
looked good.
people, yeah, he's taking penalties. People picked
Yeah.
him up, but again, like how much of a difference can these guys make? Can they really, let's say, cliche, move the needle in the way Son can, or in the way a
Mm.
Liverpool midfielder can?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what you want to get. You want to get these guys who are going to make a big difference to you, not drip, drip,
Yeah.
drip.
I wondered about the Palace options as well. I mean, they've got a rough fixture, haven't they, away at Anfield? But they were
Yeah.
sort of quite an attacking game against Man City, and then they've obviously got the double in 34. Have you got any interest in Crystal Palace whatsoever, Mark, or are they just completely off the table?
Yeah, it's if they had a good game in 33, I'd go there
Mm.
because I think we all might be very interested in maybe the likes of Munoz, Anderson,
Hmm.
Eze,
Yeah,
but it's just a week early, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, it is. Well, I think so. Like I say, they were quite impressive in the game against Man City, just
Yeah.
completed in game week 32, weren't they? So I did wonder if that was tickling your interest at all, but it doesn't sound like it is.
Well, no, it might. But I'll be in a situation where if I bring one in, I'll probably bench them,
Mm. Hmm.
maybe. And if you're getting someone like Eze with his injury record, you just want to commit to it as late as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You don't want to be hoping he gets through the Liverpool game and then gets injured and you've wasted it. So,
No, that's a good point, mate.
I don't know what I'll do. But yeah, who you haven't mentioned, I'm disappointed, is assist king Cameron Archer, who came in for 4 minutes or 3 minutes and got an assist today. So
You
and
know
he's got
what?
a double.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't top name of the reading
I got him
and
last week.
prep for this, but in all seriousness, we have all been discussing the double game week 34 like looms, doesn't
Mm.
it? And they've been desperate all season pretty much.
Yeah,
But who knows? Maybe there's an edge to be found. I think for people bench boosting, Mark, ahead of or in
mm.
game week 34, right? They're these sort of edge picks. Some managers
Yeah.
may be looking there, right? Not
There's
necessarily at
potentially a
Archer,
bench
but yeah,
boost in my team as well.
there is definitely. There definitely
If I
is.
sorted out Areola
Yeah,
and got Son and Paro out,
yeah. It's those three, right?
there, yeah, there could be a bench
Yeah,
boost in 34. I haven't really thought about it. I
yeah,
probably won't because I think 37 can work out really nicely. But
yeah.
yeah, if you look, I'm semi joking about Archer, but if you told
I'm not.
me
Yeah,
that he was going to be playing, we got a start against Burnley
yeah.
and got half an hour against United,
hmm
it's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely fine. Yeah, no kidding. There you go. All right. Well, we'll have a look at the thumbnail, Mark, ahead of this video and see whether or not we can dig out a picture of Cameron Archer from the archives. But
Yeah,
suspect we may have gone with somebody else.
yeah.
All right. Look, we've been talking around Liverpool for the entirety of this video, so wanted to get some stats together on their defensive and attacking options. So we'll take a look now at Liverpool defensive options. Okay, so you've mentioned that most folks going into double game week 34, Mark, and obviously with game week 33, home gaming against Crystal Palace as well, Liverpool are going to be on people's minds if they're not already trebled up. And these are some of the defensive options available to managers as well. For managers who are sitting there with Virgil van Dijk, yours truly being one of them, have we made a terrible mistake in putting all this money in there, bearing in mind the lack of green here and the cost of investment for him? What's your read on Liverpool defence at large and Virgil van Dijk?
Yeah, like I get why people would say that, but I would say you're a king among men if you now have Virgil van Dijk. He's expensive, of course, but I think you're going to look at game week 34 and you're not going to need all your money. So why not
Okay.
spend it
Mm-hmm.
if you can? People are going to have Son money in a lot of cases,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be easy to get to him. And especially, again, it's like, it depends on your team. If you're wild carding out of it, and you have the money, of course, you'd go to Virgil. I think he'd be the one you'd get
Mm-hmm.
unless Trent is fit. And Trent's not going to play 2 games in 34. I just don't
Can't
see
see
how
it,
it's going to
right?
happen.
Yeah.
Not at all. No. When does it
No.
start? It starts on the 20th of April.
Yeah. A couple of weeks time.
And
Yeah.
this is the 7th. So
Mm.
for him to be playing 2 games in 4 days
Mm.
in 2 weeks' time
Mm.
seems optimistic.
Yeah, it
So
does. Yeah.
um,
Fair
you
enough.
could get Trent as a punt, but
And
don't
and
expect 2 games.
no, indeed. And in terms of the treble up, then Mark, are we still saying that we back them defensively? I mean, I'm presuming you watched the game at Old Trafford today. I mean, Andy Robertson was on a lot of set plays. I noticed as well. Still think that the three players ahead of 34, you take at least one defensive option. You wouldn't be looking at some kind of strange offensive treble up. It still warrants a defensive player.
I think you take one defensive option. Newcastle have gone to Fulham and kept the clean sheet yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Like Everton, they're pretty lackluster in attack, so I think you get at least one to cover
At least one.
yourself.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there's only one there who's going to play both games, that's for sure, and that's Virgil. Like Robertson, he hasn't been getting game time
No.
because of his injuries. You've got Simicast there, you've got Gomez who can play left back,
Mm-hmm.
and him. And again, you're not. I think you've got to go after the minutes, obviously, in a double game week.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Virgil's head and shoulders above the rest,
Okay.
both figuratively speaking and literally.
And literally, yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, I did wonder if there'd be any sort of enthusiasm towards the prospect of an Andy Robertson pick. I just thought he looked particularly attacking today, and I wasn't necessarily so aware of quite how many corners and what have you he's entrusted with. Not that I thought his delivery was particularly special today, I have to say, but I wondered if there might have been a little edge there in terms of
Robertson's just one of these guys I wouldn't have in my team. Just wouldn't
go
have
on.
it. It's just It just annoys me too much. So I just wouldn't get him.
Fair enough. All right. Well, if we need to work out an X annoyance factor into
Yeah,
our stats, don't we?
he's got it, whatever it is.
Yeah, he'd have the green palette there would be chosen for him then. All right, cool. So that's defense covered. Mark's sort of saying that at least one from there and Virgil van Dijk, if you can afford him, seems to be the way to go. But let's take a look further ahead of the pitch and take a look at some of the attackers. Okay, so we know that the fun and the bonus points and assists, etc., tend to come from the attackers. And you've already mentioned Darwin Núñez. He seems to have featured on every Elite Manager video I've done with every single one of you guys over the last 9 months or however long the season's been. And we'll talk around him here. Lots of green in his column. Diaz has come into some form, hasn't he, Mark, as well? Looks like a prospect as well. Diego Jota, kind of a forgotten man as well, so I wanted to get your thoughts around him. And then McAllister as well, who's had a great season. Not necessarily sure he's completely an FPL relevant pick, but I wanted to get your thoughts around him. So these are the 4 we've selected. Mark, where are you leaning in terms of who to supplement Mo Salah with?
Yeah, to briefly go through them. I think Darwin is always interesting. There are some people who say if Darwin is fit and playing, he should be in your team. I kind of agree with that, given the numbers he produces. He goes over 4 shots per game and so on. But looking at him recently, I don't think he has been. I'm not saying he's not playing well or he's not doing X or Y that Klopp wants him to do, but purely in terms of goal threat, Brighton, Sheffield United, and again today, just not quite there. Maybe his role in the team is a little bit different, but he's not. He doesn't look like the danger he was earlier in the season.
Okay.
In games like Newcastle and so on, where he was getting a lot of chances.
Yeah.
So I'm not as high on him as I usually am, and I think there are alternatives in attack. Whereas in midfield, leading on to the next 3. Maybe there aren't so many alternatives across the board in midfield. I've mentioned Sarabia, but I think there's better alternatives to Darwin in attack up in the forward line than there are in midfield. So for me, as I mentioned, one of the reasons I didn't get Darwin last week was I wanted to keep an option open mainly on Diaz. And he's very involved. He seems to be at the end of a lot. I think if we all think about how Liverpool play, we can think of the ball coming across the box and back post is Diaz or Salah.
He was good today, wasn't he? He was good. I thought looked impressive.
Yeah, I know people give out about form and all that, but you can say he looked sharp. I think.
Agree.
I would say, and he had a chance at the end to win it.
He did. Yeah, he did.
I don't think it was poor technique that cost him. It was just he came out. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I would not say that was too bad a finish at all. No, not at all. Yeah.
No. If I was going to sell Foden coming into this week, it would have been for Diaz, and I kind of feel if I'm going to sell Son this week, it'll be for Diaz. He looks to have nailed down a spot, but we say that, and then Jota comes back, and again we're on this merry-go-round of rotation.
Yeah.
But after today, if Klopp thinks someone's in his best 11, then they've got to start every game. There's no room.
Yeah,
there's no room, and I think at the moment it really is those 3 guys who are up front that will start probably every game.
Yeah, I concur. Right, I mean they've got options, haven't they, on the bench with Gakpo's an option as well. But if you're asking is Diaz in Klopp's best 11? My answer would be yes. I'm thinking that yours would be too, right, based on what we've seen.
Yeah, I think Gakpo is an option, but he's more a depth option. Whereas when Jota is fully fit, he's genuinely
a threat.
He's first 13 players, and I don't think Klopp has any qualms about playing him. But that's not the same with Gakpo. I think there are questions about Gakpo at the moment.
Yeah, and a sort of more budget friendly option if you're looking to, for whatever reason, makes a penny pinch a little bit. McAllister there, 5.9 million, had a great season, hasn't he, Mark? But any interest from an FPL perspective for you?
Well, not for me because of the route I'm on. But if you
Mm-hmm.
are someone who wants to keep Son on your bench,
Mm.
and you want to try and get a little bit of Liverpool this week on the
Mm-hmm.
cheap, I don't see why you'd be too worried about getting McAllister. He's become very important to the team.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at his stats, maybe around 6 games ago, he started getting more attacking output for whatever reason. And you know, he's not gonna score. You wouldn't anticipate he'll score a lot, but you might anticipate he'll take penalties if Salah's not on the pitch.
That's true. That's
Um,
true. Yeah,
and he's just playing with really well, and he's important to the team, and he's nailed to play. I think every game.
he is.
So yeah, if I was trying to get away from someone who's around 7 million, and I didn't have funds to spend because I want to keep Palmer or I want to keep Son.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot worse than McAllister in this double game week.
Yeah, it's definitely one to consider. I think his role
Mm.
does seem to differ whether or not Endo's in the team right alongside him. So
Yeah.
one to watch there as well. And one we didn't mention previously, also Mark, obviously Cole Palmer being in the team as well. So I guess that would steer you away from a bench boost in 34 potentially as well, and you're still sort of moving towards the kind of wild carding into a team that you would then bench boost in double
Yeah.
game week 37, right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that felt clear to me a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like playing wildcard this late, but it
No.
looked like it was the best way to go once I decided to free hit in 29.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was
Joyous
always kind of
times
on
for
this
us
track.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Lots of
just
fun.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. Always good to be reminded of that particular shit show, wasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Look, I mean that wraps things up from my perspective, Mark. But we've not really just to clarify. Then you've got 2 free transfers rolling into game week 33. You're probably looking to either burn or use just one of those. And then in terms of the wildcard strategy, are you thinking going into 35 and bench boosting
Yeah.
37, or would you do it a game week later? What's the plan
I think it'll be 35.
in 35?
Yeah, there's some things to jump on if I recall correctly in the,
Mm-hmm.
the fixture schedule.
Yeah. So
I
sort of
think the
dead.
big questions.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think the big question is going to be around what you do with Spurs
Mm.
and Chelsea, because there's not really, you don't look at any of the double game weeks maybe aside from the one City have, and you don't really look at any of them and think that's a really good
No.
two games for any of these teams. And the experience of double game weeks this season has been very disappointing for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm not sure how deep into Spurs and Chelsea I'm going to go on this wild card. I know the
No.
conventional wisdom is get all the doublers, get them all of them. But I don't know. I look at those two teams and I don't see the form in
Well,
Chelsea, and I don't see the depth of Spurs players I want to get.
Chelsea are just an absolute basket case, aren't they? It's just
Mm,
remarkable. Absolutely, you cannot understand how it's got to this stage of spending that amount of
yeah,
money and still being in this position where Thiago Silva is
yeah,
playing and all the rest of it, and lack of striker is just ridiculous. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those wildcard teams shape up, and I'll probably have you back on the show, Mark, just before then. Actually, I would have thought with the way that
yeah.
the
That would be
timing
great.
goes, so we can see how that plays out. But look, mate, many congrats on this amazing season and getting into the top 14,000. I'm sure you're gonna kick on. Anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap things up?
No, I don't think so.
Cool.
Best part of the season, really, closing it out, playing a
Oh
few
yeah,
wild cards and other chips. So try
yeah.
and keep my head while others are losing theirs.
Definitely, and I'm sure you will. And guys, I will pop a link in the description to Mark's YouTube channel as well. If you do want to head over and get more of the thoughts of Mr. Mansfield, then I would very much encourage you to do that. Mark, thanks very much for coming back on the channel. And guys, it's good to be back. We have been on a bit of a break trying to navigate through these game weeks that are all super close to each other. We had Easter to get through as well, but we'll be back now to take you through to the end of the season and make sure that you finish strong. And we'll be back. I will be back with you ahead of Double Game Week 34. Have a great week, guys. Take care. Bye bye.